Hi, this is Dr. Steven Sears, and welcome to another episode of Heal the Burn. There's a quiet belief most of us carry in medicine that if we know enough, train hard enough, and possess the skills, we'll be safe. Not immune, we know better than that, but protected at least, right? Protected by knowledge, shielded by competence, held up by the white coat. But what if something devastating happens? Not to a patient, not a mistake in a chart, not in an M&M conference, but at home, to someone you love and share a life with. What if it happened to someone whose hands once held a scalpel with precision? To someone who thought control was permanent? What happens when your competence, your expertise, your clinical certainty can't save the person sitting across from you at the kitchen table? We talk a lot about resilience in medicine. We use that word with ease, and we use it sometimes defensively. But resilience isn't a slogan, it isn't a workshop, and it certainly isn't a highlight reel. It's the decision to keep going after your illusion of control collapses. And it's learning that strength and fragility can live in the same body. Today, I'm honored to be talking with Dr. Prema Samy, an otolaryngologist and head and neck surgeon from Ontario, Canada. Her professional life and personal life collided when her husband, also a surgeon, suffered a life-altering stroke. But this conversation won't be about the stroke itself, but what survived it. Prema, thank you for being a guest with me today on Heal the Burn.
Thank you, Stephen, for having me. Excited.
So I always like to start with my guests and find out what inspired them to commit to a career in medicine.
Oh, that goes way back. So, yes, I don't know. Growing up, my parents both were civil servants, government jobs. I grew up in Malaysia, and but I had two like larger than life role models in my family,
Mhm.
physicians. One was a OBGYN, my aunt, and an uncle on my father's side was a radiologist. And I used to look up to them. They were larger than life, and I wanted to be just like them when I grew up. And right from I think grade 4, that's all I wanted to do: medicine, be a doctor, and I did it. So so it's like sports or people want to go into become a big time athlete. You pick up role models and then you strive to be like them. Yeah.
Did you always know it was going to be surgery versus clinic medicine?
Oh no. So as a medical student, I used to walk the aisles of the library and take a break from reading and look at the different books, and I found like books which talked about what skills you need for different specialties. And I went through ENT rotation, which is generally quite a short rotation in most medical school
Mhm.
curriculums, but I loved the teacher. I was almost had a crush on him, and he he awoke that interest. And then when I went to the clinical years, that surgeon who was taking us doing the rotation with us
Mhm.
was quite the character too. So I got interested in like ENT as a subject, but at that time, that was like in the 80s, 90s, it was like ENT was dominated by men, and being a woman, it was like people really you want to do ENT? It's only men do ENT, and then I went into general surgery, and I loved that organization and methodical approach of surgery where patients come in, make a diagnosis, you fix the problem, and send them away. I love that. And I mean, you could ask me why not OB. I thought it was too chaotic. It was like the labor room, you'd have three different patients having three different problems. You need to bring order and chaos. I didn't like that chaos. I liked more like methodical approach, and a general surgery was really up there. But I also wanted a family and I wanted children, and So I married a general surgeon and did ENT, which was more like better quality of life, I would say, as a mother and wife and whatnot, my other roles. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to reflect it. What I hear you saying is that precision and control are really important. Um, how much of your identity do you feel like is built on that concept?
I think we spend so many years training and becoming the best, and in surgical disciplines, you don't know how to do anything when you start, right? So
Right.
there's so much training to become better and better. So I think that identity fusion of physicians with their profession is so strong and not completely healthy. So, being a woman, I think naturally I had other roles. So, I love what I do, and I try to do it the best of my ability. But I
Hmm.
also try to be the best mother for my kids, and I have other hobbies outside medicine. So that identity fusion with your profession can become very big. It was very big for my husband because that was his whole thing. And so that comes crashing down, it's 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 tragedy. It's
Hmm.
tragic.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to ask my listeners to look at the link below so that they can get a copy of your book, which I really enjoyed reading. Before we talk about it, I wonder if you could tell me what you remember resilience meaning to you before his stroke.
Well, I think most people think uh, resilience is being tough or unaffected and or endurance, and I think it's not entirely true.
Mhm.
I know that now, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we use that very commonly, but it's not about not feeling stress or never burning out or always coping perfectly. I think it is about recovering faster after the hard days,
Mhm,
maintaining meaning even though you are going through difficulty,
mhm,
and adapting so that you can maintain your core values, and
mhm,
knowing when to ask for help.
mm.
That's resilience.
So if someone had asked you then, could something like this happen to you? What would you have said?
um, no, I don't know what our future holds. This was totally, we were blindsided, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
my husband had the largest practice in the city. The kids hardly saw him, and suddenly the giant falls.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So nobody expects that kind of tragedy or crisis to come. Yeah.
understood. And I absolutely applaud your bravery, and I thank you so much for being willing to even dig into this with me today. What was the first moment you realized that what had happened was no longer something that you could fix?
Oh, that was a natural evolution, actually. It's like, um, you get hit. Oh, this has happened, and then it's you realize, like, from the whole process, next steps with the stroke rehabilitation and all that, you realize that you always want to be hopeful, right? Like, oh,
Mhm,
he's strong, he's motivated, he's going to come
mhm,
back. But then, especially with neurological disorders, it's so inexact. Like the first few weeks, anything we asked which had a when in it, they said, we do not know, we do not
mm,
know. That's all we heard. So it was like we stopped asking that, because no two strokes are the same, no
right,
two patients are the same,
right.
no two patients' deficits are the same, and how they recover is not the same. It's so inexact
Hmm.
that I knew that that methodical, organized mind and approach I liked, that didn't work anymore here. It was just take it once day at a time, you know?
As a physician, do you think that your knowledge helped you or made it harder?
Well, I made it help me because I thought that was an advantage I can use to help my husband the most.
Mm,
So, like every step of the way, every progression or next step, I knew what was there, what we should do, and I questioned. So I made that knowledge work for us. And I think most of the physicians who know us, and we were are in a smaller community, so we are pretty well known. So they kind of like if I suggested something, they would usually comply. So it made it easier. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
was there ever a moment where you felt like your white coat didn't protect you?
With the regulation, no,
Okay.
no. Like I have no control about the hospital policies and our professional college policies, and we felt completely helpless there. You
Mm,
know,
mhm,
no control at all. But
mhm.
the recovery also, in some ways, we had no control. The body does what it does, right? When it is ready, there's no control there as well. So yeah, you have to learn to relinquish that control. That's part of the journey. Yeah.
So I understand from reading your story that you continued to practice medicine though. And I'm wondering, did you feel like it cost you something to continue to showing up for patients?
um, well, in the beginning, there was a lot to juggle. So, there was stress, but I continued working because I didn't want to be sitting next to him, worrying about him all day long. There were times
Mhm,
he needed his rest, he
mhm,
needed his therapy. I was not doing anything meaningful there. So I
mhm,
would show up 3 times a day, spend like a few hours, and the rest of the time I was working, and that also was a break from that whole thing. So you asked me whether it changed how I approach patients, did you?
just your ability to show up for patients, did you find that that became harder because of everything that was on your mind, everything that you were trying to juggle? Did you find that that relationship with your patients was challenged in any way?
I can recall an incident. Maybe I could have been a little bit more patient with the patient. Is that because of what I was going through? Because it was a few weeks after. But otherwise, actually, I became more a better listener to patients,
Mhm,
I would say. And if a patient had a stroke 2 years ago, I was more interested in knowing their journey, things like that. Because when you spend time on the other side of that dynamic, instead of being the physician, you're the patient and you are there with your husband, it's a different dynamic. And so I appreciated that the patient's perspective better. I felt that I listened better.
mhm,
Yeah. And during that early time when there was more stress, uh, one thing I learned to do was really compartmentalize my presence,
mhm,
because I'm a surgeon. I have operating lists, clinical responsibilities, hospital responsibilities, family responsibilities, and I was also caregiving. So if I fused everything together, I would have been a hot mess. So I just compartmentalize, like, when I'm in the operating room, I'm there.
mhm,
When I'm with my husband, I'm there. When
mhm,
I'm at home, I'm cooking and I'm
mhm,
making sure my family's taken care of. I did that presence. I know we hear that about being in the moment. That's a big term used. It almost is a cliche, but that is real. You
mhm.
have to be in the moment. and do things that need to be done there and then move on to the next, you know?
Was that part of your personality before his stroke?
I think I was always curious about how people, like, long before all this happened, my favorite reading materials were always about how people rose from adversity and spiritual growth and, you know, your mindset and thinking and how consciousness. Those were my favorite reading material.
Mhm.
And I think that curiosity was there before the tragedy, and but when the crisis came, it became a tool.
Mm,
It gave me a language for what I was experiencing. So I think that that helped me. Yeah.
mm. Do you remember days feeling like you didn't wanna be a doctor anymore?
Not even a day, not even a minute, you know. I felt being a physician during that time was a huge advantage for my husband. I could access information like far superior to some of the other stroke patients, right? Because I talked to some of my husband's colleagues who practice in the US and found out what they do for acute stroke. Are there is my husband getting everything that is in the protocol, you know? So I think I use that advantage to the fullest.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
When I was asking you about being with patients, did you talk about what was going on with them?
No, that was too
Okay.
personal, you know,
Mhm,
and I didn't want that kind of sympathy or anything. I had to be professional and n- except for the people and everybody in the hospital knew.
mhm,
No, I did not share that with patients.
mm. Do you think that is it 5 years now since the stroke?
No, it's actually 8 years.
8 years since the stroke.
2017. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 8 years since the stroke, and we talk about resilience being like bouncing back. Do you think that you bounced back, or did you become somebody new or evolved?
Um, I think it changes you definitely. It makes you I mean, the whole journey, it's not just the stroke, it's everything that happened after. Because my husband, like we talked about identity fusion, he was first a general surgeon before he was a husband and a father. That's what he was. And then
Mhm,
he lost it and he was like flailing. He wanted
mm,
to get back to that. So
right,
that journey to try to get back was so, so hard and stressful. And when he feels stress, I feel stress, right?
of
So
course.
it it changed me in ways that, like, so many different ways. It's like I I I learned to know what things I can control and what I can't. And I learned to let go because that's important. If not, it'll crush you. I also learned, like, in the medical profession, I mean, we talk about collegiality and all that, but not everybody is there to root for you. You know, people disappoint you for whatever reason. Doctors are humans too, so that you have good people and not so good people, I guess. You know, some who come out of the way to help you, and others who, when you're down, they step on you. You know,
Mm,
so you begin to realize who are the people who you should value most, and you will find those people in the hardest times in your life. And those are and so your circle of people becomes smaller actually after these kind of crises, because you
mhm,
know who are the real people you can
mm,
lean on. So yes, it changed me. It made me reflect, but I it didn't embitter me. It bittered my husband. He's bitter about a lot of
mm,
things.
mhm,
I
mhm,
I don't know how to change that in him.
mhm,
It didn't make me bitter because I can't control how people react or help or not help. I can't control about what big bodies of regulation do. You know, it has happened. This is the result. This is where we are. So I'm a bit more philosophical, but
Hmm.
he has changed him as well. And
Hmm.
yes, oh yeah, it has changed us a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure. W- Do you find that there are aspects of your personality that have become stronger, maybe in a way you didn't expect?
Yes, I think my spiritual growth has grown exponentially because, in medicine, we learn how to fix things. We are in control. But when you do caregiving, you realize that you cannot fix everything. And that spiritual leaning on to something bigger than yourself, whether it's your religion, it's your universe, whatever you call it,
Hmm.
y- you can it enables you to let go or surrender without giving up hope you know so
Hmm.
that I think that is where I've grown the most. and
Hmm.
and so, like, whatever happens, I tell myself every day I'm grateful for where I am, for where my
Hmm.
family is. I will do my job to the best of my ability with, love and faith. And the rest, I let it go. If I have a bad day, I let it go, you know? So that I was never that person before.
So that sounds to me like a superpower, just to be able to let it go. Can you say more about how you've engaged with that mindset?
Like I said, there was a wealth of knowledge I'd acquired over the years just out of curiosity for books on psychology and mindset. And I used to, like, absorb these books, and I found it so profound that I would take notes. And I have these little journals where I take notes from these books. So when
Hmm.
I'm going through something, I'll just flip a few pages and that book is refreshed,
Mm-hmm.
so that was my foundation. I think I never did that because I expected a crisis in my life,
Of
but
course.
that I think that kind of development of your emotional processing and the way to think, and if you make it habitual and make it part of who you are, comes handy whatever you're going through, whether it's a professional crisis or personal crisis. While being a professional, it's the same rules applies everywhere. And when I was in the crisis, it was just part of who I was. And it was not I was looking for books at that time. I didn't have the time. What I discovered during the journey was that I discovered I was gravitating towards, like, music, which moved my spirit. They say that music can be therapeutic. Oh my God, did I find that out?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I would find music on YouTube and I had my own playlist. And there were those hard days I would just go sit at in my backyard with my pet and look at a sunset or the beauty there and listen to this music, and it stirs me so much emotionally that I just bawl my eyes out, but I feel better after, you know? So
Yeah.
I have those different ways to release my. See, we are taught in medicine only intellectual processing, not emotional processing. That
Sure.
emotional processing, like I said, I had some baseline, but then I discovered that music helped me, leaning on some good friends helped me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and and I also even started picking up a brush and started painting. I never
Wow.
knew I could paint, but I just did that reflexly, not because I read it anywhere. And if you had asked me, can you paint? I would have forever told you, oh my God, I'm the worst artist. And then the art I produced during that time, I was shocked. It's it's like I gifted so many people with my art. I think if I do it now, I can't do it. So it's an outlet too for your processing. So I discovered that all on my own, but but I think you need to let go, and then whatever is meant to happen, it'll come to you, you know? Yeah, so
That
hope.
seems so unfortunately discordant with what we are trained, right?
Oh,
We are
yeah.
trained to control the situation. I think my life anyway, when I'm trying to evoke a particular outcome, it is crazy making sometimes, and remembering to let it happen is a really special skill. It sounds like that you have refined a great deal.
Yeah, but that can be developed by anybody. You don't have to develop after the crisis. I think we talk about our medical training and how we have to learn, how we have to practice, but we are not taught about emotional regulation, right? How do you react? How do you process? How do you seek help, debrief? There's the, yeah, we are not taught that.
Do you think that has to be something that begins in medical school, or is this something that people who've been around longer can do something to improve?
Yeah, I think medical education as such is so focused on the knowledge and acquirement of skills and keeping updated. I think there's no room to with for the emotional and individual personality and how you react to stress.
Hmm.
But maybe that's changing because people are more aware of burnout, and I think there are a lot more resources available for young doctors, who
Hmm.
have. It's slow, but it is
Hmm.
there. It is coming, I think because we are talking about it more. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this whole experience has changed the way that you sit with patients who are in crisis?
Yes, I am more empathetic for sure. I mean, doctors are all busy, and like if you've been doing it long enough, you'd probably be seeing the thousandth patient for sinus problems. That's my kind of area of specialty. But then for that patient, it's his problem. It's only his problem. So I very often remind myself, for this patient, his problem is his only problem and it's important to him. And he
Right.
may have waited like a few months to see me. So I
Hmm.
need to give him that time. I have to consciously remind myself. And we sometimes are tired. We have a busy clinic. Sometimes we shortcuts things and don't give the time, and patients are not happy. And so I try to remind myself those things, and I've been on the other side with my husband, so I feel I have the capacity to empathize a little better, you know. I think so. I should ask my patients.
Since the book came out, have there been any updates to the story?
It was published in 23, so in the last 5 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, we are a lot more stable, happy, Yeah, it's good.
Your husband's actually returned to be a surgeon.
Yes, not in the full armamentarium, but he was still struggling, like right up to 2024. I think he was trying to get his full license back, but I think this colleague of his who was supervising him had a sit down talk and said, why are you putting yourself through this kind of stress,
Mm.
I mean, and he was already like 63, 64. Why are you putting. And I think, and it has to come from him. I cannot tell him. It had to come from him, and he realized, okay, I'm not going to pursue that. He was doing endoscopy, and he has been doing a lot of skin surgeries under local anesthesia, and we have a huge population with skin cancers
In
in
Canada.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a small community. It's agricultural, a lot of farmers,
Ah,
Caucasian, a lifetime of sun, skin
gotcha.
cancers, huge,
Gotcha.
huge. So
Yeah.
he has a
Yeah.
huge practice in skin cancers now, and he does it under local, and he does amazing work. It keeps him busy without the stress of being on call, dealing with very sick patients, and so I think he's accepted that, and
Mhm.
he's slowly deciding to take more time off. So we have accepted where he is, and the fact that he's able to even do that is a miracle to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I will put the link to your book down below and encourage listeners to read the story, which I think is very profound, even though you have certainly come out the other end a stronger person. I wonder if you have any advice for people who are listening who worry about things like this, wonder how they could get through, how they could be resilient. What would you say to them?
Well, from this journey, I know that resilience is not built in the moment of crisis. It can be developed, okay? And it is built quietly over years of in our habits, our faith, our friendships, and the meaning we give to our lives. So the writing the book gave us meaning. All those joys and wins we had, I started recording it, and then it became a memoir. So, and now we went through all this. If we can share this story with anybody going through anything, and if it inspires them, then there was meaning to our struggle, right? So,
Yeah.
my advice to people is you can develop your resilience. Do it when you're young. Do it by reading, by, you know, having roles outside medicine. Because if you are practiced in medicine long enough, things will go wrong. And if it's your entire identity, you will be at loss. So you must have other identities like a parent or, an athlete or a writer, whatever you love doing, an artist. So that is healthy. And life will throw you curveballs. So, and there's a metaphor which I love, which, you put a potato and a egg into boiling water, one becomes hard and one becomes soft. We will all get those times when we face the boiling water. And that's not something we can control. But what is important is how you respond to it, you know?
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. Yeah. Yeah.
Prima, thank you for being on Heal the Burn with me today. Your story is inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me. I am honored, and I hope, you know, this helps and inspires a few people out there.
There's something about this conversation that didn't follow the story I expected. I've always thought that when something breaks, it either destroys us or it makes us stronger. But what I hear in Prima's story is something deeper. That resilience isn't built in the moment of crisis. It's actually been there all along in our habits, in our relationships, and in the parts of ourselves that exist outside of work. And sometimes the real work isn't fixing, it's letting go. It's not giving up, not stepping back, but loosening our grip on the idea that we were ever in control to begin with. In medicine, we're trained to act, to solve, right? Life doesn't always give us that chance. Sometimes it asks us to keep showing up without control, without certainty, strong and fragile at the same time. And I don't think that's the opposite of resilience. I think it's exactly what resilience is. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a colleague. Thank you for listening to another episode of Heal the Burn. This is Dr. Stephen Sears.